Welcome to episode number 38 of the Between Two Brands podcast. I'm still your host. I made it through my little illness, which ended up not being as little of an illness as I thought. I had COVID. Uh, as COVID goes, reasonably mild bout, but still fighting through the after effects, the fatigue, and all of that. But here we are. Anyway, before we get to our show, let's pay the rent, shall we? We might just be starting October, but the industry's biggest event is really right around the corner. Now, you know what I'm talking about. It's the world famous, internationally known PPAI Expo taking place this coming January 13th through the 15th. Now, here are some reasons why you absolutely need to attend. Conference Day, which is Monday, January 12th. You might know it previously as Education Day. It's called Conference Day now. It'll feature phenomenal educations from thought leaders both in and out of the industry. Number two, over 1 million square feet of exhibit space on the trade show floor. Number three, more than 900 exhibiting companies showcasing over 250,000 products. Now, if you're keeping score at home, that's 250,000, folks, and that's a lot of merchandise. Number four, over 30 hours of industry-focused education. Number five, one of my favorite things about Expo, the pitch returns Monday, January 12th, and that's going to be followed by the always amazing opening reception at Skyfall Panoramic Bar and Lounge. Now, tickets required for the reception, but I'm here to tell you, it's worth it. And six, unmatched, and everybody knows this, unmatched education and networking. Let's not call it, it's actually unmatched everything. It's unmatched education, unmatched networking opportunities to kick off the year. Clearly, I'm excited. I could go on and on as to why PPAI Expo is truly the Super Bowl of the promotional products industry and why it's an event you simply cannot miss. Truly, it's the best and I would argue only way to kick off your year and ensure 2026 will be your best one yet. So register today at ppai.org/expo. All right, it is October, so I'm wearing an Octoberish color, even though it's 6,475 degrees outside. But I'm ready for the season's change, so I'm forcing it with my olive green. If you're watching it, I try to keep this front part a little short because I've committed to you not to have the extended dance remix too often of this podcast. Had a couple things to choose from, but the one I really think I want to talk about is something I don't think gets enough notice, is that the ban on non-compete clauses is dead. 1 year after the Federal Trade Commission made a rule banning non-compete agreements, the agency has completely reversed course without the measure ever going into effect. And because when the ban was issued last year in 2024, it was struck down by a federal judge in Texas, and they were still going through the legal wrangling, so it never got implemented. Now, in promo, I think we all know this. Most of us know this. It is a matter of common practice to put a non-compete clause in anybody's employment. Now, there's lots of opinions on non-competes. Management, for the most part, seems to love them. Workers, of course, don't love them. I personally have had experience 3 times with a non-compete. The first time was very gentlemanly. I had been at a company. I'm not going to name any companies. I just don't feel like doing that. I'd been at a company 8 years. It was time for me to go, and they treated me very well on the way out the door. I had a non-compete, and all it was said to me was, as long as you don't violate this one caveat of your non-compete, which I had already committed to my new employer that I wouldn't do, we're not going to, they said, we're not going to have a problem. And we didn't. It was an honest conversation, and it worked out just fine. The other two, not as great. Um, the other two, I'm only going to mention one here, but it really put a bad taste in my mouth about non-competes. Um, it it was bad. It was bad. I had been at this company for 9 months, 9 months only. I left of my own volition, and this company tried to put a non-compete on me that restricted my working with any ASI top 40 distributor or top 40 supplier for a period of 2 years. Now, mind you, I'd been there 9 months. That time, I had to get a labor and employment attorney involved. And so that thankfully, I'm very fortunate. One of my college roommates, one of my best friends, happens to be a labor and employment attorney in Texas. And most states have some reciprocity, so he understood the laws where I was living at the time and was fantastic in getting that non-compete removed. It was unenforceable, which many times they are, but thankfully I had a free attorney. So I, but it left a really bad taste in my mouth, not only about the organization, but the individuals at that organization, because the way they tried to intimidate, the way they tried to bully, and the way they tried to prevent me from working in the industry, an industry I love, an industry I feel like I've given some things back to, maybe more than some, really left a sour taste in my mouth to this day. I think very poorly of that organization, and I think even more poorly of the people who run it. And that's been validated by other people having very similar experiences with that same organization and non-competes. So, here's the weird thing though. Well, let me get to the weird thing in a minute. So, I guess I'm saying in my experience, most of the time, they're completely abused by the companies and they try to hamper people's ability to make a living. And I think it's time to think differently about non-competes. For one, won't sign one. So there's that. But to me, it's a trust factor. When you ask a new employee to sign a non-compete, you're automatically starting the relationship off, basically saying, I don't trust you. I don't trust you when you leave, and I'm not sure I trust you when you're here. That's number one. And that's a terrible way to start off any relationship. I don't care if it's personal, professional, whatever it is. That's a terrible way to start off a relationship. Number two, there's nothing in this industry that is so secretive that an employee can leave and do irreparable damage to another company. Now, maybe I shouldn't say always, but there are very few occasions. I will tell you in the roles I was in as either a vice president of sales or director of marketing or whatever I was in, there was nothing I was going to take from one company and say, man, this is what they're doing over there. So I've got their secret sauce. That's not how generally it works. Generally, people want to leave because they want to better their lives. They don't want to stick it to the former employer. They just want to go. And so I find that very, very frustrating that that happens. It's like I said earlier, to me, any sort of non-compete, if I was ever to get a job with another company again, a non-compete is 1000% a deal breaker. Won't do it. Won't sign it. There are conditions that employers have for employment. That would be my condition of employment for sure. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about non-competes. I know there are some reasons to have them occasionally when people are in very sensitive roles, things like that. But for the most part, I'd say 95% of the time, they don't matter. And they're just nothing more than really trying to stick it to the former employee. I don't like it. All right, before we get to my guest, which I'm very excited about, I want to pay one last bill. Hey, many people know how to build a business, but few understand not only when to sell your business, but the process involved to ensure you find the right partner to maximize the return on your investment. And this is where you need an expert, especially one in the promotional products industry, to help you. And that's where certified marketing consultants come in. Jamie Watson and her team have decades of experience facilitating private company sales in the branded merchandise space. Now, to help you evaluate if it's time to sell your business, why don't you go ahead and reach out to them? Reach out to certified marketing consultants at info@certifiedmarketing.com for a confidential discussion today. All right, that's enough of me and my preamble. Let's go ahead and bring on our guest. Well, my guest today actually, I don't think needs an introduction, but again, I like to waste everybody's time, including my own, so I'm going to introduce him anyway. He has spent more than 20 years in the promotional products industry, starting out selling custom gifts in a mall shop, moving through roles as a decorator and distributor, and eventually leading a global marketing team for a top 40 supplier. Now, today, he's the founder of Promo CMO, where he channels that experience into helping small promotional businesses bring clarity to their brand, structure to their marketing and technology, and the confidence to to make their next move, all without the need to hire a full-time marketing leadership. Above all, he's passionate about the people and creativity that make this industry so damn special. And he brings a unique perspective and a deep commitment to helping entrepreneurs thrive. Please join me in welcoming my good friend, RJ Hagel, the Promo CMO himself.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great to have you. We've been friends for a long time. It's been a long time coming to do this
Yeah,
podcast. So let's jump
excited. Of
right into it. Do you have anything you'd like to talk about?
course. I've got some questions for you. So one thing I tend to notice, especially on Facebook, is the Back 40 Smokehouse. Every time I scroll past it, always gets me hungry, and I love what you do there. Two questions. One was, what is your favorite uh, dish or meal that you prepared this summer from
Okay.
the smokehouse? And number two,
Yep.
have you ever thought about doing it professionally?
So favorite thing, it just depends on what my mood is. I mean, sometimes I do like just simple like smoked chicken wings, which is actually pretty hard to do and get it crispy and get them crispy and things like that. But I still probably love, I think my favorite thing to smoke that I smoked this summer, probably smoked it 4 times this summer is tri-tip. You being in California know exactly what a tri-tip is.
Love it.
It's a relatively newer cut of meat for those of us east of the Mississippi. Been smoking it probably for about 10 years. And it is such a gorgeous piece of meat. It takes on the smoke flavor very, very well. And then what I do is I smoke it, I let it rest about a half hour, and then I reverse sear it so I get it nice and charred on the outside. Let it rest another 20 or 30 minutes. The key with tri-tip, though, is you have to know how to slice it. If you don't slice it against the grain, the most flavorful shoe leather you'll ever have. But if you slice it against the grain, it just melts in your mouth and it's tender. So I'm gonna have to go tri-tip. Have I ever thought of doing it professionally? Absolutely not. That would fail. My joy is cooking at my speed, my tempo, what I want to cook that day,
For sure.
for the people who I love, and whether it's family or friends. I mean, I do get so much joy doing that. That truly is something that I find is the most relaxing thing I do is, and I think my wife pointed this out. It's really my version of serving others. I do like to do that. It's just it's my therapy. So, but to do it professionally, I don't think that'd go well for anybody. I think I'd suddenly lose my joy doing it, quite frankly.
I love the therapy idea. Like, I think everybody's got their thing. They got gardening. I personally love
Absolutely.
washing and detailing my car. That is my
I
thing.
love that.
But definitely, I don't have a smoker, but I do. I don't use a gas barbecue. I use a charcoal barbecue, and I
Yep.
do love going out and cooking food and trying new things every once in a while. But tri-tip, absolutely, brisket. Those are my two favorite. And then,
Brisket's great.
like you
Yep.
mentioned, chicken wings, turkey. I mean, like,
Uh,
I just can't get enough of smoked meat,
sa-
to be honest.
Same thing. If I will tell you, if it's in the fall, a fall Saturday, when I will, if I can, now that my kids are out of the house, and I can spend from 11 o'clock in the morning to that kickoff of that first college game until they're done at night. I love a good 8, 12, 16-hour smoke so I can just be bathed in that glorious hickory or pecan or oak, whatever I'm smoking with that day. So I like a long smoke on a fall Saturday.
Love it. No, that's awesome. All right, I have one more question. This is a little more of a
Okay.
professional, insightful kind of question for you. I've had a couple of conversations recently about values and like really about living your life, how people live their life by the values that they feel are most important, right? And in some
Yeah.
cases, it's not about what you say your values are, it's about how you act. And I think
Right.
that plays into a lot about what's happening in our political environment and other things too. What are some of the non-negotiable values that you live your life by?
Professionally,
Either way, the ones that come to
uh,
mind.
candor. Number one is candor. I don't like liars and I refuse to lie to people. That's number one. I cannot do that. So any sort of uh, uh, dishonesty, I really struggle with, both in my personal life and my professional life. I'm not great with that. I'm all for second chances, but you won't get a third. And that's a definite non-negotiable with me. I'd say another non-negotiable professionally is when people will engage with me, and they'll tell me, yeah, I want to change this, I want to change that, I want to do, and then when push comes to shove, they don't want to change anything. And by the way, that's fine. I just don't want to be blamed for it. If you do exactly what you've always done, you get what you always got, right? We all know that. That's an
Sure.
old adage, but it's true. And I'm of the assumption if you engage someone like me or you or a Jason Noakes or anybody who is in the service provider sector, you want something to change. And so if you're not willing to go along on that ride with me, if you are going to I don't mind you resisting change. I mean, I love creative friction. I'm a huge fan of creative friction. But if you're just like flat out, no, this is the way we've always done it, then don't come to me in 6 months and start getting upset because you're not getting the results you wanted.
Sure, absolutely.
That's number two. And I'd say number three is if I can't professionally and personally too, if I can't have fun with someone, I'm kind of not interested. We are not selling ball bearings and missile parts in this industry. We are selling decorated nuggets of awesomeness that tend to spread joy, give happiness, and highlight great marketing. And I think we need to remember that.
Absolutely.
It may,
It's one of the things I love
and
about the
so
industry.
yeah, and if you can't have fun doing this, man, that's cool. If you want to be all serious and all that, and I'm not saying let's cut up all the time, but we can laugh too, and it can be fun. I'm probably not super interested. I'm not sure that's a non-negotiable, but that's a
Okay. No,
furrowed
fair enough.
brow for sure. Um, and then the last I'd say non-negotiable professionally is deadlines. I am extraordinarily strict with deadlines, to the extent I can control them. I mean, obviously, there's sometimes you can't control something,
Sure,
but
sure.
if
Yeah.
I'm in control, deadlines don't get missed. If I tell you something's going to happen on Wednesday, um, October the 8th, it's going to happen Wednesday, October the 8th, and probably Tuesday, October the 7th. I expect that same in return. And so, any given point, I'm juggling X amount of clients, I'm waiting for approvals and things like that. So I appreciate that type of feedback. Hey, I don't want to chase you down on Saturday because we have stuff posting next week, or I've got emails that are about to go out and I'm waiting for an approval. So I set that up very much up front. One of the things I do, I've said this on this podcast, said on my old podcast with Kirby. Every client that I'm on a retainer, that's on retainer with me, every Monday, they get a report. It'll tell them, here's what we did for you last week. Here's what we're planning to do for you this coming week. Here are some things that I need feedback on. Maybe I need logo files. Maybe I need some artwork, whatever it is. I need a review of something. And then the fourth section is on the horizon. Maybe they want me to visit them at their home office. Okay, then we need to figure out the logistics of that and the airfare and all that. Every Monday. And I write it. It's the last thing I do on Friday. I pre-write all of those reports and they scheduled out and they go out Monday morning between 5 in the morning and 5:30 my time
Love it.
without
Yeah.
fail. Yep. And I do that because, and I think you'll find this out doing what you do. I'm sitting here in Franklin, Tennessee. People are kind enough to engage with me and pay me to do it. I'd like to make sure that they know that they're getting value out of the dollars they spend. So that's very
Sure.
important to me. So I'm going to do that for you. I expect that's kind of symbiotic relationship in return that, as quickly as good as things happen, but quick feedback that we're always engaging. I think that's important.
Cool. No, that was great answers. Love it. Thanks
All
for
right.
answering.
Awesome. Well, are you ready for some
My
easy
turn.
questions? No, it's always your turn. These are very, very easy questions, RJ. Very, very easy. All right. Now, you have been in the industry for 20 years, and I'm a believer that anything above 10 makes you a lifer. So you're a lifer. It's like Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave.
Sure.
Now, the
I
last
agree with that.
11 years, I'm sorry?
I said I agree with that. No, it's you don't want to check
Yeah.
out. I think that's the thing. I mean, like you
No,
said, this
no.
industry's fun. It's something
Yeah,
it's part of what I'm passionate about. It's in my name, the
a-
Promo CMO,
a-
right? It's not just fractional
absolutely.
marketing, it's for the promotional industry. So
Well, we're going to get in on that. So the last 11 years, you're at Gold Star, where you served as the global director of marketing. Now, a lot of us face a career crossroads. I know I have several times, and I know you did this past summer. You decided to go the route of a solopreneur for Promo CMO. So I have a couple questions about that, and
sure.
I'll ask them one at a time because that's my podcast and my rules. Number one, what made you decide to take the journey of a solopreneur? Because before you answer, I'm of the belief you could have gotten a job at any number of suppliers or distributors at a C level and done it for a specific organization. What made you decide to be a solopreneur and do it this way?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. There's a couple of things that kind of came to mind. Some of it's timing, right? I actually wanted to get into business for myself for a long time. I mean, it's something that's always been on my bucket list. I kind of figured I had this point in my life when it was going to happen. My kids were going to be old enough, whatever the scenario was that was going to feel right. And, I think like a lot of people experience, life doesn't happen at our speed, right? It kind of happens when it happens. Um,
Yeah.
so I think so the core of it, there's definitely entrepreneurial blood in my system. So I think that's part of it. The other is timing. I think there's a lot of things happening, not just in our industry, but just our general geopolitical environment right now where, people are struggling, especially small businesses are struggling with growth. And they can't afford to hire the people they need to. They can't afford to invest in the
Yeah.
technology they need to. They're struggling in many different areas. And I've always been
Yeah.
really passionate about small business. My parents had owned a small business. Both of my parents have been volunteers for local communities, from animal shelters to uh, board of directors for some different organizations. And so it really was more about helping small businesses grow and kind of helping, specifically within our industry, really helping give companies that may not have a chance to
Yeah.
invest where they need to that opportunity. So, um,
Yeah.
it was just it's more of the passion from that perspective that really got me interested in it, and then just being able to control my own destiny, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think I can, wake up late on Monday if I want to, if I have fun watching football games Sunday night and need a little time to recover, or taking off a little bit early on Friday, or going
Yeah.
to the gym in the middle of the day. Those are things that are really important to me, and it's, I think, having a little bit of more control back to my own life is a good thing.
Yeah. All the things you said is exactly why I decided to do Brandivate in the middle of the pandemic. I started Brandivate in earnest July of 2020, and everything, single thing you said echoed. I saw availability. I saw here's what's happening in the world. I think there's a gap I can fill. Same thing. So I love your answer. Next part. What excites you about your journey, and what scares you to death about this?
So I think what excites me the most is kind of back to what I was saying about helping small businesses. In the role that I'm playing now, it gives me the opportunity to help multiple businesses. So this is not kind of a long-term commitment. It can be depending on the situation, but it gives
Right.
me the flexibility to work for people that I believe in, right, and believe in their goals and their mission. Um, and it allows me to spread myself a little bit more across different environments. And so, just I think for me, it's the opportunity for my personal growth, helping small businesses, and then again, getting back to having a little more control over my own personal life. I think those are the things that really get me more excited. What scares me, I think I definitely, especially over the last couple of months, have ran into that imposter syndrome that a lot of people fall into. And, it's a little bit different
Still have it.
when you're
Still
not
have
getting
it.
an employer to commit to
Still have
you.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's natural. I mean, the confidence kind of wanes in and out. Some days I feel great. Some days I'm wondering what the hell I'm doing. I think there's a little bit of that. But generally speaking, I don't get super scared about specific things. I kind of like try to spread my worry out over multiple things, because the things that we're scared of is always going to be the unexpected. And I try not to overthink it. I think that's something that I've learned, over the years of working or just living in general, is just not to overthink things, because most likely the things that are going to be the most impactful to us aren't the things that we're anticipating.
Right. No, I love that. And, I used to tell my kids all the time when they were upset about something or worried about something, in 5 weeks, is this going to matter, let alone 5 years?
Sure,
If not,
absolutely.
then maybe not get so upset or not worry about it. Love your answer. All right. Now you have an incredibly strong marketing background as well as truly fantastic theoretical and practical marketing knowledge. You do. That's a non-negotiable. That's the foundation of this next question. So two
Thank you.
questions. So looking back in the past 10 years, go back to 2015. How have you seen marketing in the branded merchandise industry evolve?
So I think certainly sophistication. Just I think the biggest things that have changed in this industry, getting back to small businesses, was that this industry has, generally speaking, always been comprised of a lot of small businesses, and that really has changed, particularly the last 10 years. I would say even back to 2008 during the the first financial crisis, that's kind of when consolidation really started to kind of happen. At least from my perspective, it has.
Yep.
So, I think you're getting more enterprise level businesses that have more sophisticated uh, well, deeper pockets, first of all, and more sophisticated knowledge about technology and just general marketing. And, and that's on the supplier and the distributor side. There's certainly
Yeah.
companies, some of the large buying groups and some of the large companies like Halo, but then you got like the PCNAs and the HPGs of the world that consolidated some smaller suppliers, and kind of brought all that stuff in-house. And so really enjoyed seeing the elevation of some of the marketing.
Yeah.
And then to add on to that too, brands. I mean, there was certainly
Yeah.
name brands have become just as have exploded over the last couple of years, more than a couple of years, in the last 10 years or so. And so there's a general level of expectation that they have from a marketing perspective to come into the industry. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely seeing an elevation. Um, and uh, and yeah, I mean, I think it's coming along well. I think we can all agree, and I know you've spoken on your other podcasts about how this industry can feel kind of archaic at times. So it's good to see some
It
good,
can.
some movement in the right direction.
I remember when I first started focusing on, what I do, marketing from a supplier, generally speaking, not every supplier, but as a whole, the community, marketing was, we're going to put 7 to 10 products on a virtual 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and we're going to put so many industry codes on there, and the font will be about point 0.6. So I think we've gotten further from that, which is fantastic. So getting out to crystal ball, what would you say will define successful marketing in 2026?
I think brand is such an important thing for just about everybody right now. I think it's building trust and transparency, and a lot of that happens in many ways. Adoption of technology is really important in doing all
Yeah.
of that. So, creating a great customer experience, and that leads, that starts with your brand and what you are setting out to do for your business.
Yeah.
And then delivering on your expectations and your production times and the things that you promise as a brand, right? And really building that trust and transparency in your own business, and the overall value that you're offering as a company. I think those things need to continue to evolve, and it's not so much about the ad spend and things that are traditionally thought of as marketing, but it's really about living and breathing, your promise to your customers, essentially.
So let's stay focused on the branded merchandise space. What marketing advice would you give the following people that can be easily incorporated in 2026? So one thing, let's talk about distributor principles. What would you tell them to do?
Sure. So, getting it back to brand, I think it's really important as a distributor right now is to find something that's not product oriented, that's really going to drive your business forward. So it's committing to something. It doesn't have to be a true agency model. It doesn't have to be one thing or another. It's just finding your audience, finding what you do and what value you offer, and lean into it, and not just say it, but lean into it and live it. I think a lot of distributors are scared to pigeonhole themselves. I think a lot of marketers and principals in general are scared to pigeonhole themselves into something very specific. But the reality is that's the way the world is changing, is these micro audiences, and appealing to those audiences, then having an understanding of what they need from you. So yeah, it's just finding some focus that's not, here's my product at this price,
Yeah,
right?
I couldn't agree more. I tell distributor prospects, clients, people I work with, you have nothing unique. So do not go on product, because you basically have 26,000 other competitors that sell the exact same stuff from the exact same suppliers. And I don't care who you're with, but probably about the same price. So we need to figure out what makes you uniquely you. What is it that you have that is different? And it's something in you, it's something you can offer that is not product. So I love that answer. What about supplier marketing departments? What advice would you give them for 2026?
Well, this one I'm kind of close to, just coming from
A
a
little bit.
supplier myself. So but generally speaking, and I mentioned technology before, but really from a supplier standpoint, it's leaning into technology, but really understanding your customer journey and what your customer experience looks like. And that, because you have, suppliers typically rely heavily on field staff for their actual go-to-market strategy. So you have a lot of salespeople, you have inbound calls to your service and inside sales centers, and many times those are disjointed. And so truly understanding how your customers are engaging with you, what types of things they're looking for, how to help them close deals, most of that starts with understanding the customer touch points, what's happening in those touch points, and then what do you do to kind of help them along the way. Especially when you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of different independent distributors,
Yeah.
it's hard to wrap your hands around, an account when an account could be comprised of many, many salespeople. So really understanding by person, not by company, but by individual, purchasing agent, salesperson, whatever you want to, however you
Right.
want to look at it, what they need from you and being able to help support them throughout the life cycle of the I can say life cycle, but throughout the journey of
Yeah.
ideation to closing a deal and getting an order
Right.
processed.
And I think suppliers have a challenging job. I'm sure there's other industries, but one thing that's bizarre about our industry is that suppliers are marketing their wares to their sales force. It
Mhm.
is a bizarre little thing we've set up in our industry, so it's a tough job. All right, last one. What would you tell service providers to do? You're now
Service
one.
providers. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. No, this is kind of like I'm closing the loop on this. I had decorator,
that's right.
distributor, supplier, now service provider. I
Yep.
think the biggest value as a service provider is networking, collaboration, and thought leadership. So I think, for you ask many suppliers and distributors, and they talk about technology, and the answer they give you is, I don't know where to find the people that I need to do the work that needs to be done. Or I don't know what needs to be done. I need somebody who's an expert that can come in and help me. I hear that over and over again, and I have for many, many years. Um, Thought leadership, bring ideas to the market, share the ideas. A lot of ideas are not going to be, um, unique to you, but it's the ones who share them and build the most credibility. They're going to be the ones that are going to be successful. Share those from a collaborative standpoint. So spend a lot of time reaching out to people, building networks. I've been actually doing it myself. I've been connecting with a lot of people over the last few months. So when people come to me with needs, I have people that can help with those. I know you interviewed Eric Granata not too long ago. He and I have been talking quite a bit. Super smart guy, lots of great ideas. How do I amplify those ideas? And so, we're working together to try to do some of that. And yeah, and just networking, just continue to be out there and in front of people and just you know making
Okay.
friends,
No,
essentially.
love it, love it. It's the industry to do that, right? We are an industry of huggers for sure. So back to
Absolutely.
something we talked about earlier and you touched on, how critical is a relatable brand identity? Things like brand promise, personality, values, delivering on what you do promise. How critical is brand identity as it relates to this supporting the role of marketing and ultimately driving sales? I fervently believe in this, but I want to hear your perspective.
Yeah, no, this is the tough one because it is the intangible, right? I think that's the thing that a lot of people who don't understand marketing struggle with a lot is brand strategy.
Yeah.
Usually people get it once you can kind of give them an idea of what this
Mhm.
takes and why it's so important. But even outside of this industry, I think it's so important to live and breathe who you are. It's going to get back to the customer experience, and making sure that people believe you when you say you are going to do something in specific. Um, just technology and the way things have happened, it's very hard to have a unique proposition, um, it- as it relates to saying that you do things well, right? You can say you have great service. You can say that you have great production times or great decoration, but the fact is you still have to prove it and build that loyalty. Um, and how do you do that? How do you build people up to believe you? And then once they can experience it, you got to make sure you follow through. So,
And
one of
it's
the terms.
repeatable. And it's repeatable.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a new, I would say new term, but a term that I've seen more and more recently is about red ops, right? We start talking about marketing operations, then you have your factory
Hmm.
operations, you've got sales ops. But the fact is that all of these touch points throughout companies need to be in sync with one another because that is your experience, that is your brand experience. That is how the customers see you when they interact with you. Um, so it's important to embrace a brand from a leadership perspective at the highest level and cascade it down because it's important that your experience and how your customers experience your promise is so important. And you break that promise, there's going to be somebody else who can do it just as well as you can, if not better, that's waiting to take your business from you.
Yeah, totally agree. Especially when and I'm sure you find this when you talk to both suppliers and distributors. Many times you'll ask them, what is your brand identity? What is your brand promise? All those things. And so many times, at least what I've heard back is subjective terms. Well, I'm creative. Okay. You might be the most wildly creative person in the world, but not every client's going to think you are. Some may
Show
think
them.
you are, some may think you're, or I'm responsive. It's all these subjective terms. And so I think the key is to find it, we can all look at very transformative things as we go
Mhm.
through our career. I'm sure you can point to several, points in time or activities you did, or I can point to one for me that really flipped my switch, which was I think you were even there, an NALC in Austin, Texas, when Roy Spence spoke. And I have his book, and it's called It's Not What You Sell, It's What You Stand For. And I absolutely love that. And he was the chief marketing officer for Southwest Airlines, came up with, or the agency, I'm sorry, the agency that worked on the Southwest Airlines account came up with the
Mhm.
whole now you're now free to move about the country and so on and so forth. Absolutely love that. And if you read his book, it's truly amazing. And so, when I think of what my brand promise is we do work that matters. That's it. We do work that matters. It's simple, it's repeatable, at least hopefully my clients think.
Mhm. Sure.
Today's the first, so I did billing today. We're going to find out if it's repeatable or not. So I love that if we can, what do we stand for? We stand for doing work that matters. And so I know you have similar things. So I love your answer. All right, last question, RJ. You're a California guy. Now, I'm
I
someone
am.
who was born in the Midwest. I grew up and still live in the South. I've always had a fascination with all things California. So I'd like to play a little true false. This is not rapid fire, so there are
Okay.
no wrong answers. So I won't
All
yell
right.
at you like I have previous guests on this show. So a little true or false on how one might perceive California. So true or false, everyone
Okay.
can surf.
Everybody can surf. That is not
Yeah.
true. It is a big part of our culture. Um, you'd be hard pressed to like drive out somewhere here any given day and not see a surfboard on top of somebody's car in the back of a truck, something like that. Every high school has a surf team. I mean, it is a big part of our culture. But no, I don't surf myself. I
Okay.
tried a couple times, but people are very active here. That's the one thing. If it's not surfing, it's something else. It's golf. It's stand-up paddleboarding.
Okay.
It's snowboarding. We have mountains too. That's the great thing. So we've got a little bit of everything. And but the surfing, no, that's
All right. All right. Fantastic. True or false? Traffic is truly unbearable.
I'm gonna go with true on that for generally speaking. I
Okay.
mean, certainly this time of year is actually not a bad time for traffic, but middle of summer, rush hour, if you wanted to get from
Yeah.
downtown San Diego to downtown LA, it's going to be probably 4 hours. And
Oh,
that's what, about 150 miles. So yeah,
terrible.
no, I stay pretty local on the weekends just because getting up to LA or getting out of San Diego it can be just not worth the time to sit in traffic.
I get that. All right. True or false? Everyone aspires to be either the actor, a model, or a musician.
I would say false on that one too.
Oh man,
Uh,
you're ruining California for me.
that
You're
is
absolutely
definitely a
ruining
Hollywood
California
thing.
for me.
But we have our fair share. Let's put it that way. If you go to LA, I bet you're going to see a lot more, but that's a little more condensed just around LA area.
All right. True or false? The weather is always perfect, especially in San Diego where you live, and once the marine layer lifts off at about 10 a.m.
100%.
Okay.
100%. It is
Doesn't that get
74
boring?
today and like 50% humidity. There's no
Doesn't
clouds
that get
at all. There's
doesn't that
like a
get
light
boring?
breeze. No,
Okay.
I don't miss it. No
All right.
mosquitoes. We get
No.
rain, but no snow.
Yeah.
Uh, it's one of the things I love about living here, for sure.
All right. True or false? People in your state completely live in fear of. The big one.
I think the big one to some degree, but I think more recently fires, uh, angry mobs, um, are probably more of people's minds today than they have been. But I have to say, as a state, though, we're probably unprepared for a large earthquake. So I think there's something about people being scared about something, they tend to prepare more. Now
Yeah.
they're, more scared of, getting robbed or
Wildfires.
something
Yeah.
else, and so it's probably not the same as it was back in the 90s and 2000s.
All right. The true or false, the only culture in California is just vanity. That's it.
Um, to answer this as a two-part question back to some of the other things that you've asked about, there's a
Yeah.
very distinct difference between Northern California and Southern California. So
Hey,
Southern
sir,
California,
sir, I'm interrupting you. This is my podcast. We're talking about California. I don't care about
oh
San
man,
Diego,
okay.
San Jose, Los Angeles. As a whole, California doesn't have any culture.
That's I'm going to say no on that one, just
Yeah, you
because
have to. The way you're hedging and hawing, there's no way it's a yes.
if you were talking about Southern California, I would say absolutely. I live near San Diego. I'm actually in Orange County, and
Right.
yes, and you get near the Newport beaches, Laguna beaches, some of these areas that are known to be quite hoity-toity. That there is a vanity to things, what kind of car you drive, what you dress, how you dress,
Yeah.
those types of things. So, I
Okay.
would say there's absolutely some truth in that, just depending on where you are.
All right. Now, see, we're getting somewhere, and I like this. All right. True or false? It's impossible to get good pizza or a decent bagel.
Pizza is a false. I have had some
Okay.
great pizza, and actually, I was in New Haven last year, so I got a chance
Okay.
to indulge in some coal fire pizza from Pepe's, and actually,
Yep.
we did a little pizza tour, so we went to a couple.
Nice.
Pizza, absolutely. Bagels a little tougher. I'm not a big breakfast person, although I love bagels. And when I was in New York City, I ate one every single day, if not two or three. Um, I'm sure you can find some good ones, but
Okay.
the ones that I know around me are decent. They're
All
edible,
right.
right?
Two more. True or false? Everyone's either a vegetarian or full-on vegan.
I like my brisket. I live in
Okay,
California.
good man. That's a great answer. Great answer.
That is not true.
Last one.
However, I would
Okay.
say Northern California might get a little bit higher percentage of more
Okay.
vegans than you do down here.
What I'm learning is essentially California is two states. It's Northern California and Southern California. That's what I'm gleaning from this conversation.
Depending on who you ask, some people believe it's West California and East California, which could be
Okay.
looked at a very similar way. But yes, no, it's a big state. There's
Okay.
absolutely two very distinct cultures here.
All right. True or false? This is the most important one, the last one. People in your state really believe that In and Out is superior to Whataburger.
I mean, you use the word believe, so I'm gonna say like they just know. I mean, like there
Wrong.
is no question. In and Out is
Wrong.
better. I mean, look at it. You live in Franklin, Tennessee, now the home
I
of
do.
In and Out East, right? So
Yeah, and
they're
it's
taking over.
quite literally. Yeah, it's quite literally three-fourths of a mile from my house. And I'm not joking. Now, what's funny is right across the street. So they're gonna have the East Coast headquarters right here in Franklin, and of course they're having it In and Out right by right by the office building they're
I hope
building.
so.
Across the street, they're
Is a
putting up a
Whataburger.
Whataburger, which is funny. That gives me joy.
Well, if there's any consolation, I have to say I have had Whataburger quite a few times. A lot of Californians probably have not experienced Whataburger, to be honest, so
Yeah,
I don't even think they would know. Um,
yeah.
the thing
Oh,
with In-N-Out is the freshness. The burgers are always fresh and they're exactly the same every single time. Whataburger definitely gets a little more meat. I Their fries a little bit more of my style. So I not discounting what Whataburger is doing,
the
but In-N-Out's just classic. It is like
the
SoCal classic.
It is. That's what I was about to say. The real truth behind all this is it's what you grew up with. I grew up
Mhm.
with Whataburger. It is near and dear to my heart. And so I have an affinity towards it. If I grew up in Southern California, I have the same thing. I have to agree with you. The burgers are always fresh at In-N-Out. The fries are terrible at In-N-Out. Sorry, but they are.
It's their own
Uh,
style. They're not bad. They're just
the
not the
The thing I
creaminess.
love about Whataburger is they did not sell it to private equity because now Whataburger is owned 51% by private equity, and those small little private equity changes are happening. Hey, before we say goodbye to our friend RJ, let's pay a final bill, shall we? A big thanks to our pals over at PPAI. Now, right now, not tomorrow, not after breakfast, right now. Now is the time to register for the Super Bowl of promo. That's right, the PPAI Expo. Now, with over 1 million square feet of exhibit space, over 900 exhibiting suppliers, and unmatched networking opportunities. This is the one industry event you really cannot afford to miss. So go ahead and register today at PPAI, that's going to be easy for me to say, ppai.org/expo. RJ, hope you had a good time. Thanks again for doing this. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate it.